Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Fringe, or welcome back to On the Fringe. This is Dave. I'm here with Gavin,
Hey, hey, hey.
and there have been a lot of happenings in Northeast Asia over the last couple of weeks. And it looks to me, Gavin might agree that the balance in Northeast Asia is shifting. It's been very delicate, I would say, for the last 10 to 15 years, but over
Hmm.
the last couple of months, even the last couple of weeks, it's really started to shift where the Russians are projecting power by sending Vladimir Putin to Kunashir. It's an island, the southern part of the Kuril Islands, just north of Hokkaido. Japanese are not happy about that. The Japanese are also dealing with a major crisis with their currency, the yen, and there are also some rumblings of a weakened partnership between the US and South Korea militarily, even though both countries just had a couple weeks ago, the Korean president came to San Francisco for a major AI conference. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this part of the world, but we're going to be talking today about the military partnership between the US and Korea. And Gavin, what's kind of going on with this in the last week and a half?
Well, it involves specific military exercises and it involves specific announcements on social media about a drawing down, I think a lessening in terms of cooperation involving major military exercises. US and South Korea hold a lot of military exercises. They have a bilateral mutual defense treaty that was signed in 1953. It's been around for a while. And I think over the last week, there was an announcement from the current president of the United States that they were going to be, I don't think fully ending Ulchi Freedom Shield, but it was going to be much smaller in the future because the relationship with the leadership in North Korea is going so well, it's just not a major security concern anymore.
Well,
Um,
that's what Trump is saying,
yeah.
and I think it's two things. We can go into why this is happening, but I think that's one
Well,
reason is the North Korean bargaining
I
chip.
I want to hear I want to hear again, I'm just stating what was put out
Mhm.
there. I want to hear from you what you think those two reasons are.
Number one, I think it comes down to costs, and I think Trump is showing the South Koreans that the U.S. and the South Korean defense partnership has largely been blunted by the United States, in Trump's opinion. You go back to even
Hmm.
2019, there were military
Hmm.
drills. Trump called them a waste of money. So
Yeah.
Trump is going out and saying, well, we're paying for everything. We're keeping South Korea safe. South Korea needs to do more for this partnership, even though it's defensive in nature. Trump has tried to get South Korea to help the U.S. either keep the Strait of Hormuz open or do something about Iran's nuclear program. And South Korea has largely not been interested in doing so, paraphrasing what Trump had said on social media. So that's one thing. And
Second
then
thing?
the second thing, South Korea is getting the former North Korea treatment in terms of carrot and stick, where
Yes.
if South Korea plays along with the US, we will give you a full 2 week long military exercise. If you don't, we're going to cut it. And it's very much we're turning this alliance into a position of, well, we have footed the bill for the last 50 years, 60 years of this alliance, according to Trump. And since we footed the bill, that's largely in our hands, even though it's on your territory.
Now, I think it's fair to say that the South Korean political and military leadership does not view this the same way. And they've been, I think the response from what I've seen has been very muted. They really haven't said very much. But there's been a lot of off the record people going, well, this kind of confirms where we thought things were going. And it is reinforcing, I think, decision making or reinforcing decisions on the part of the South Korean leadership in terms of where they want to take their defensive strategy. And it's going in some interesting directions. One of the things that has been talked about more publicly now, I think, than it ever has in the past, is that increasingly public opinion and I would say the opinion of people in the defense complex in South Korea is that South Korea needs a more serious, independent deterrent, specifically a nuclear deterrent. Now, that might sound crazy to some people, but this has been talked about for a while, since really the 70s. There was a program at one point that was discontinued, but they have nuclear technology. They have a very robust military defense sector. I think if there's any country in the world, we'll talk about maybe a few of the other ones, but if there's any country in the world that could get a nuclear program up and running in a short period of time, it probably is the South Koreans. Again, a couple of years ago, people would have gone, "What the hell are you talking about?" If you look at public opinion in South Korea today, people are looking at this rather favorably, not because they think they're going to get stabbed in the back by the US, they don't, but because they currently view the US as an unreliable partner. And I think what Trump is putting out there is a view of events that the South Korean political leadership, and probably the military leadership, I would imagine, doesn't agree with. And they're going, we can still work with these guys. We kind of have to. But at some point, something or someone might come along that we are going to have to assert our independence on what we view as our defensive requirements.
I
And to
think you
do
hit the nail
that,
on the head with the reliability part. And
yeah,
I think South Korea wants to take more matters into its own hands with its
mm,
national defense.
yes,
And last year at the APEC summit in Gyeongju in South Korea, South Koreans got permission to build their first nuclear submarine. It's supposed to be built in the next 10 years, roughly, is when it's going to be coming out.
hmm
They're also going to be helping the U.S. improve shipyards and improve U.S. naval capabilities in terms of actually getting ships and stuff like that out. We really don't have that
because they're
much
good at it
infrastructure, and they are some of the best ship makers in the world.
by
But
far and away.
I 100% agree that the South Koreans probably are as close to anyone in terms of actually being able to develop a nuclear weapon. And even though they signed back in, was it 1992, the joint declaration to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula, the North Koreans obviously didn't care about that. South Koreans are going to, at some point, they may go, well, we love having the U.S. as a partner. We are glad to be part of the U.S. nuclear umbrella, but we do need to be able to protect ourselves as well.
Yep.
And we are going to take that step if we need to. Now, I don't think they will, but I think they're definitely having talks in Seoul or in Sejong, the administrative capital of what do we actually need to do moving forward in
Well,
the
it's
next 5 to
interesting.
10
It's
years.
interesting you mentioned Sejong. I mean, the Sejong Institute, there are think tanks and centers of policy making in South Korea that have been pushing for an independent nuclear deterrent for a while. This is not a new thing. I'm bizarrely, I'm not a pro-nuclear activist by any means, but I'm a little more optimistic is not the word, wrong word. I'm a little more bullish on the South Koreans moving forward in this direction. I would actually put a timeline on it. I think next 5 to 10 years. I'm just going to say, I think next 5 to 10 years, the program is either going to be full steam ahead or they'll have a weapon.
Possible.
And I think it's
I
very
think
possible.
it largely depends on what happens geopolitically with the U.S. in the next couple of elections. I think.
And we will continue, and we will, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I would say
You know
a
that
lot, a
that's
lot
the key.
relies on
That's
that.
the
A
key.
lot relies on that. There are other factors too, which we will get into more, I think, on other podcasts. But it's not just the relationship with the US, it's what's going on between the Japanese and the Russians. It's what's going on with the Chinese and the Japanese. It's what the US involvement in East Asia is going to look like, regardless of their direct involvement in Korea. What is their maritime deployment going to look like? What is their involvement in the Taiwan dispute going to look like? There's so many factors in play, and I think they're all going to inform that decision in South Korea.
Definitely. Because this has been one of the hottest parts of the world, kind of been under the radar, and it's going to just continue to sit there and it's not going to boil over,
Do,
but it's going to simmer.
do you think that people kind of forget that just because how economically successful most of the region's been? That they forget like how militarily hot basically all of the East China Sea is? Like that whole region is just so much military force in such a small area, and everyone's sort of pointing at each other. And do people just not think about that because, like, basically everyone's been doing pretty well for the last 40 years?
And then you add in the
It,
constraints of geography.
well, and they're big constraints. They're very big constraints. Anyways, this is a situation we will absolutely be returning to. If you have enjoyed listening to this, if you would like to share it, if you would like to comment on it, please do so. If you're on a platform where you can leave us a star rating, please do that. And, we appreciate the engagement from our community. Let's continue the engagement. If you have questions or if you are interested in any of our topics and would like to know more, please get in touch. We would love that. So, yeah, I think we're at the end of the pod, Dave.
I think so too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.